Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Birchal's Q&A investor webinar with our founder today from Florcita Tequila, Pat Neal. My name is Mel. I'm the campaign manager here at Birchal, and I'm very excited to hear more about this fantastic product, Florcita Tequila, that's about to hit the Australian market. We are doing a current raise for Florcita at the moment on our Birchal platform. We are in the expression of interest phase at the moment. Next week, we go into our public offer at midday on Tuesday, the 8th of July. But before I go on, I just want to do a welcome to country and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're zooming to you from today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. The way this webinar will run is Pat will present us with a deck and go through all the facts and figures for Florcita, and then after that we will have a Q&A session. So please, if you've got any questions, there's a little Q&A bubble at the bottom of the screen. Pop your questions in there. After the presentation that Pat delivers, we will then go through the questions that you have. So over to you. Thanks so much, Pat.
Thanks, Mel. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully you can see that okay.
All good.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Pat Neal. I'm the founder of Florcita Tequila. Just firstly want to say thank you for those joining today, as well as those who are going to watch this after the recording. We certainly really appreciate the interest both in Florcita and in tequila in general. It's certainly an undervalued market here in Australia, and hopefully after the end of the presentation I'll have answered a few of your questions and sort of really given an insight as to why we've sort of picked tequila and what we're trying to do in the space and really sort of reinvent it from its traditional branding and sort of appeal. So I do encourage you, if you do have any questions, small or big, please feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll try and answer them as best I possibly can. You're also welcome to email me post this presentation at hello@florcita.com.au and we can go from there. But I'll get stuck in and away we go. So what I'll do today is just give you a little bit of an update as to why tequila and what the tequila landscape looks like. It's certainly growing exponentially, we feel, both in US, Europe and Southeast Asia, but in Australia, the opportunity is massive. We're seeing it sort of really sort of starting to take off. And I think when you look at sort of spirits that have had their time in the sun, excuse the pun, of course, sort of gin and vodka certainly saw massive growth in the past 10 years. And we think the same thing's going to happen here with tequila. In fact, I'm pretty sure we know so. We're seeing sort of a compound average growth rate of 7 to 9% leading into 2027. We actually think that's going to be higher as well, sort of into the 10 to 12% compared to sort of your standard spirits industry at the same period at around 2%. So the opportunity is certainly there, of course, as well. We see that tequila is transitioning away from traditional consumption occasion, and premiumization is certainly where it's sort of leaning towards. And I think what we mean by that is tequila is no longer that shot that you had on a Saturday night that sort of either ended the night or ruined the night. It's certainly now a much more premium quality spirit. It's a white spirit, it's a clean spirit, and it's being used more and more in everyday sort of consumption, whether it be in cocktails, whether it be on ice or straight by itself. And I think that what we're really trying to do as a brand is show the consumers how good tequila can be with a really great flavour profile, which we've been able to achieve. The Australians' love of margarita and agave's perception as clean spirit, as I mentioned, it should see growth for the foreseeable future, of course, as well. From a competitor insight, and you've probably noticed already with our branding, we're very different to sort of what's on the market currently. We're not celebrity endorsed. We don't have The Rock holding a tequila at a bar. We don't have someone in the agave fields sort of harvesting and sort of highlighting a really serious brand. We do obviously want to achieve that element, but we want to do it in a really balanced and fun way, of course, as well. And one thing we don't lean into too much is the Mexican fiesta side of things, which many brands that we're seeing in terms of large market share like Jose Cuervo, Sierra or El Jimador certainly lean in towards that, of course, as well. And we've found a really nice sweet spot in I guess, a demographic of 35 to 45 without trying to alienate either side of that, of course, as well. And I'll speak to that a little bit more, of course. But for us, what we really want to highlight is that you can have good times and good vibes with tequila. You just need a good quality spirit. You don't need the lime and salt. And I think that re-education process is going to take a little bit of time for the public to understand, but I think through our initiatives and what we plan to do and the quality of our products as well will certainly make a really big impact in the drinks market. As I've sort of highlighted, consumer insights, many people have had that sort of strong, distinct taste, and it's being traditionally consumed as a shot, and they've had poor memories of it. But the health-conscious consumers are now focusing on lower sugar and no sugar RTDs, with clean spirits being a focus. So moving away from the dark spirits, such as your rum, bourbon, etc., and more into those sort of cleaner white spirits. And Aperol and Limoncello have also seen an uplift due to flavour, refreshment and sociability cues. And again, I'll speak to this a little bit more, but when we look at who we're trying to compete against, it's not necessarily other tequila brands. It's those sessionable drinks like your Aperol Spritz, your rosé wine, and even your Limoncello, of course, as well. A few key stats that we've picked out from some recent reports is the global RTD cocktail market in USD was 1.1 billion as of 2023 and projected to grow at 14.2% to 2030. We're seeing that in Australia as well, massive growth in terms of the ready-to-drink range. And then I spoke to sort of the stat on the screen there as well just before. The opportunity. So Florcita Pty Ltd, which is the parent company of Florcita Tequila, is looking to raise up to $400,000 in this crowdsourced funding investment round, 200,000 of which would go to production costs in terms of procuring stock from Mexico and then bring it across. And as I guess we live in Australia and Mexico is a long, long way away, we need to be able to sort of procure a large amount of stock less frequently than small amounts more frequently, because our supply chain duration is 2 to 3 months in terms of time on the water, etc. as well. So we certainly need to buy a lot of product up front. We want to sort of heavily invest in sales and marketing, as well as some working capital, of course, as well. But I guess you're here and wondering what have sort of we achieved to date. Well, we are the recent recipients of 3 International Wine and Spirit Competition awards, which is probably one of the most prestigious award competitions in the world for spirits, including a gold for tequila and tonic as a mixer. We achieved also a silver for Paloma and a silver for outright spirit. Now, in terms of those mixes, the competition was 1 part tequila and 3 part mix. And we were judged the best across all the tequilas, arguably, that entered, which is, I think, over 150. So a fantastic achievement before we've even launched. So we're super excited about that. We've got 100% agave certification. So many people think, how is tequila 100%? Well, similar to champagne, tequila can only be made in a certain region in the world. It's in a state called Jalisco in Mexico. In order to be considered 100%, you must bottle and produce just a pure spirit using only blue agave plant. So we're very proud of that, of course, but we've also got permissions in place to bring tequila in bulk across to Australia and bottle here for the likes of our coffee tequila, which we very proudly make down in Wollongong, of course, as well. We've got key partnerships established with Dan Murphy's, ALM, which is your independent bottle shops, Celebrations, Bottle-O's, etc., as well as Paramount for on-premise, such as your big hospitality groups and pubs. So we're really, really excited to hit the market running, if you will. Across 2 weekends, we've achieved $10,000 of pre-sales at the recent Good Food and Wine shows, the end of May and just recently 2 weeks ago in June, both in Melbourne and Sydney. So the reception was phenomenal. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and to achieve $10,000 in pre-sales with an average purchase price of $80 is a massive, massive achievement. And I sort of look at it as an absolute win, because pre-sales are that much harder to get from a sale, because you've then got to convince someone the product's so good that it's worth waiting for, of course. So we're very proud of that. And we've got a number of on-premise businesses ready and good to go that we want to launch into. So our plans for the future, we want to sort of really expand the growth of direct-to-consumer and our wholesale markets. That's domestically, of course, as well. We want to look after our own backyard, and that'll be a very strategic approach of focusing on New South Wales and Victoria firstly, before then expanding into Queensland, WA and SA, of course, and I can't forget Northern Territory and Tasmania as well. So we'll look for national coverage pretty quickly. We also have plans to expand internationally, of course, as well. And I guess one of the questions is, you don't want to sort of spread yourself too thin. How are you going to achieve it? We really want to target key strategic locations that align with our brand in key locations across the world. Namely, we're sort of starting conversations to enter the UK and London off the back of those international awards that we've won, because the prestige in the UK is that much higher than the rest of the world, given that's where it's sort of held, as well as looking into opportunities in Southeast Asia, where agave is also growing massively, similar to those CAGR rates that we saw for Australia. We're looking at a ready-to-serve range. Ready-to-serve and ready-to-drink are very interesting spaces at the moment. So your ready-to-drink range is very much around the sort of 5 to 6.5, or 4.5 to 6.5% alcohol, whereas your cocktail range is more so the ready to serve. So it's those pre-mixed margaritas, pre-mixed palomas at around a 14%, similar to the picture that you see on the screen there. So the likes of Curative, for example, do the small canned cocktails. We'll certainly explore that. We're going to look to bring in a mezcal as well, which I'm very excited for. Many people, again, this is based on feedback that we had at the Good Food and Wine shows, of course, as well. But I guess similar to tequila, mezcal is an agave-based spirit, just made in a different state in Mexico. A little bit more of a smokier flavour, but also is quite popular here in Australia, and it continues to sort of gain in popularity. We want to sort of bring out a mezcal and a blanco initially to have two distinct, different tasting agave spirits that we can sort of really leverage our quality and our branding with, before then starting to age our tequila in terms of both a reposado and añejo, and then we'll explore an extra añejo and cristalano. And I'm sure you're thinking, Pat, what's the difference between all those? A reposado tequila is a tequila that's generally been aged around 3 to 6 months. Commonly, the barrels are oak, and they're generally bourbon, because bourbon barrels can only be used once before the specific distillery needs to get rid of them, and they're quite cheap. So most of the reposados you see on the market and aged tequila variants are aged in bourbon barrels for that fact. Añejo is very much from 12 to 36 months, so it gets sort of your more darker colour, similar to a whiskey profile. I think it's the best of both worlds. Similarly, most are done in bourbon barrels. Now, what Florcita is going to do, actually, which I'm very excited about, is we're actually going to age ours in cognac barrels, so French oak barrels. A higher quality barrel, but also from a flavour profile, is going to really align with the floral profile of our tequila that we have lined up as well. So we are super excited to start barreling that, and hopefully with a successful raise, we'll be able to start works on that August and September, which is pretty exciting. An extra añejo goes from 36 to sort of 60 months, so sort of 3 to 5 years. Again, a little bit more aged in terms of flavour profile. And then your cristalano is very interesting. It's an añejo, but it's washed with charcoal. So you get the taste of the añejo, but the clean sort of white or clear spirit like a blanco. That's gaining a lot of popularity internationally, especially in Mexico. But I think there's a really good opportunity to bring that in as a sort of a higher level quality spirit, of course, as well. So hopefully that provides a little bit more insight. A little bit about us. So it's a husband and wife duo. My wife, Louise, unfortunately couldn't make the meeting today. She works full-time currently at the moment, but I am full-time in the business, of course, as well. I worked for Aldi, the supermarket, both in Australia and the UK for 10 years across various different roles in operations, buying, logistics, project management, you name it, I did it. I really felt the urge to do something for myself, and I had all that experience. I've also just completed an MBA last year, so I had sort of the theoretical component as well as, I guess, the practical experience. And had a lot of experience in FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and then sort of knew I wanted to do something in the food and beverage space. Landed on beverage and landed in the tequila space, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But that's a little bit about myself. My wife, Louise, is actually a doctorate in research for neuroscience, so she is the clever cookie. She very much enjoys the customer psychology and sort of customer experience element. I think we make a really good pair in terms of that balance between experience and also the theoretical component that Louise brings, of course, as well. She also loves a good mug, which I couldn't say no to. So when we sort of decided that we were going to do tequila, our arms were twisted, and of course we tried everything out there on the market to make sure that we could find something that, or find a gap at least that we thought was there, and then we confirmed that, of course, as well. But if it wasn't for Louise, we wouldn't be in the tequila space. I'm sure many can relate. A little bit more about tequila. Our distillery is located in a small country town, if I can call it, called Zapalén del Rey. It's about an hour out of Guadalajara, which is the second biggest city in Mexico. Guadalajara is in that state of Jalisco that I mentioned, and is that's the region where tequila is made, of course, as well. It's a little bit of a diamond in the rough. The town itself is a farming town, so very much known for their corn. The distillery that we're partnered with is very boutique and small, and we're very proud to have partnered with them, of course, but they do a fantastic job in terms of their quality. But our tequila is very different to what's on the market at the moment. I think commonly you get tequilas that are quite earthy. They're quite sort of prominent in terms of those raw agave notes, a little bit of pepper, or spice in there, of course, as well. Our tequila profile is very floral. Aligns itself quite nicely with a gin profile, if you will, and has sort of resonated quite nicely with the customers that have tasted it so far. But you get sort of notes of apple, pear, citrus, a little bit of lavender and jasmine, and a little bit of white pepper, of course, as well. What you don't get is the tequila burn, which many people brace themselves for, and I sort of give them. I think they're pleasantly surprised when they try it. It's very accessible as a tequila, of course, as well, and pairs really nicely. Whether you have it straight, whether you have it on ice, or based on our recent International Wine and Spirits Comp Awards, it's a perfect base for your margarita or paloma. So I guess through that education process, we're really starting to turn some heads in terms of how good tequila can be. And as a brand, that's what we wanted to achieve, really, was having a really good quality product to marry up with what we wanted to achieve as a brand. A target market, I mentioned it before, but we've found a really sweet spot in terms of an untapped market compared to where the competitors sort of stand at 35 to 45, but creating branding and creating appeal that doesn't necessarily alienate either side of that bracket, of course, as well. We're looking at sort of higher disposable income customers that live a little bit of a fast-paced lifestyle. They've got a little bit more disposable cash, of course. They're well-travelled, and they like that nostalgic feeling that they sort of might get from having a key drink that takes them back to their special place or their happy memory. But we also sort of align with customers that are very active on social media, influenced by online trends, of course, as well. They keep an eye on what's happening internationally and sort of go to those key locations that have wide social appeal here on the East Coast in Sydney, of course. They're environmentally conscious, of course, as well. So that's just a little bit of insight as to sort of the target market that we're sort of focusing on, of course, as well. Now, from a go-to-market strategy, we have a really aggressive strategy on-premise, and on-premise is your bars, pubs, restaurants. We need, and I think the best form of marketing is liquid to lips, so we really want to get our Blanco in as many mainstream locations as possible. I think many people think because we're a tequila, we'll naturally just levitate towards the Mexican restaurants, Mexican bars, etc. And there's certainly a market and an opportunity for those, but we really see our appeal in sort of your mainstream pubs, your bars, your accessible locations, your restaurants, etc. So from a go-to-market strategy, we want to target a ratio of 80 to 20 in terms of those mainstream pubs versus your Mexican restaurants. And that is for the fact that we want to educate and really highlight and sort of reinvent tequila as it's currently known in the pubs and bars. And we've got some pretty cool things that we want to sort of focus on, of course, as well. You've seen a little bit about our brand, and I've spoken to that, of course, as well. We will then, through our partnerships with Dan Murphy's, drive volume through off-premise, and off-premise is your sort of your liquor shops, etc. And we'll use that, partnership with Dan Murphy's to really drive volume for both our Blanco and our RTD. And I guess our premise is you can go to the pub and have a really nice cocktail, and you've got a bottle of Florcita Tequila Blanco available, and you can taste and see how good it is. If you want to go to the bottle shop and buy a bottle yourself, you're able to. But if you want a quick and easy solution, then we'll have our RTDs, which I'm super excited to explore in a second, of course, as well. So we'll really sort of focus our efforts in terms of penetrating as many of the key locations that we can. We know that we're up against a big battle against some of the big brands like Diageo, Bacardi, etc., who have got many first pour agreements, and we need to cut through. We feel our products, such as our Flor de Noche coffee tequila, are really easy way to sort of penetrate those bars. But we also want to target key holiday destinations. And so if we look at New South Wales and Sydney, for example, our focus will be on key holiday locations such as Wollongong, Newcastle, Port Stephens, etc. When people go on holiday, we find that they're very open to trying new things, of course, as well. And hopefully that drives a little bit of a pull strategy into from a marketing perspective into inner Sydney, of course, as well. So we want to sort of align with maybe 5 to 10 hero venues that can really champion our brand, and we'll provide them with point of sale to really market that, of course, as well. Do really cool things like Florcita Fridays and activations where we possibly can, and we'll continue to sort of drive the customer-facing expos as we're doing already with Good Food and Wine, and we've got, I think, another 6 lined up for the rest of the year, which is pretty exciting, of course, as well. From a sales and marketing perspective, we certainly want to drive a heavily focused campaign in those areas that we are targeting digitally, of course, as well. Also working with our off-premise partners in terms of activating via their channels digitally, of course, as well. We'll look at influencer partnerships, local events and training programs for retail and bar staff. I think engaging and onboarding the bar staff is very, very important because they're the people that are going to recommend Florcita over just a common tequila, of course, as well. So we have hired a brand ambassador for New South Wales. I've got a brand ambassador hired for Victoria, of course, as well. We've got one lined up for Queensland, and we've got various BDM roles also lined up, of course, as well. So we want the best of both worlds. We want those brand ambassadors going in and really promoting the brand and working with those bartenders directly. But we also want to not overcomplicate things with the world's most complicated cocktail. We just want really clean, sharp, and sort of easy to access drinks for our consumers, of course, as well. So we'll certainly do a heavy campaign there. Now, speaking of partnerships, etc., we this week, in fact, we partnered with Singapore Airlines as part of their Chris Plus membership program, which will, long story short, provide miles for purchase. So a customer can, if they're a Chris Plus member, can go on the Chris Plus platform, purchase a bottle of Florcita and redeem miles, which is pretty cool, and actually receive them, of course. And on Monday, we sponsored a TikTok event, which is pretty exciting in the hopes, and we're very confident that we'll be able to hopefully sponsor the TikTok Awards later in this year, of course, as well. So we've been able to gain significant tractions through high-end partnerships already, and that's just only in Australia. So we're super excited for the future. A little bit more about our product range. You can see on the left-hand side there of the screen, we've got our international medals that we've won, but this is our 100% blue agave tequila. It actually retails for $79.99, and we wanted to benchmark ourselves as a tequila brand, not necessarily with the likes of your Jose Cuervos and your Sierra tequila, but more so aligned with Patron, Don Julio, 1800. And we really feel our flavor profile plus our awards certainly allow us to do that. But I then, on the flip side, also wanted to create a really accessible product from a price perspective. We didn't want people to pay through the earth to actually buy a bottle of our tequila. So we wanted to stay under that sub 80 mark, and that's strategic. So I really try and anchor the price there at $79.99, which is the best of both worlds. You get a really great quality product, but you're not spending absolute fortune to get it. What's been an absolute hit recently at the Good Food and Wine Expos is our Flor de Noche coffee tequila. It's 35%. In order to be called a tequila, a product must be 35% or above. Otherwise, it'd be called a liqueur. So we've set the alcohol level at 35%. Has very nice notes of caramel, agave syrup. It's got a Colombian coffee base as well. And then it heroes that Blanco, as I spoke about. And that's $99.99. And that has been, I think you'd say, over half of those pre-orders have been for the coffee as well, which has been pretty exciting. And what we're really trying to highlight is all the different ways that you can enjoy that Blanco. You don't necessarily need to drink it straight. As long as you're having tequila in some way, shape or form, we're happy as a brand. A little bit of a competitor analysis, and you can sort of see here those brands I spoke to about, again, lend themselves to a price point that's $20 above us. 1800 is very much benchmark against, but they're a slightly less alcohol content at 38%. So we feel we've got a really good balance. Tromba as well, $94.99. They also do a Cafeto coffee liqueur, as they've labelled it. That's $99.99. Many people know Patron and Cafe Patron and have good memories of Cafe Patron back in the day, of course. They've since discontinued it and re-brought it out at $99.99. We really feel, and I'm a very strong believer, that our Flor de Noche coffee tequila is on par, if not better, in a different taste profile to coffee tequila. It doesn't have as thick a consistency. It's not as sweet, but it is very nice. And I think the balance that we've got from our Flor de Noche at $99.99 is, I think it's going to have mass market appeal, which we're very excited for. A little bit of an exclusive first images here of our lemon Keela, but we're doing a sparkling margarita range. So we've got 5 flavors lined up and good to go. We've got our lime, we've got watermelon, we do have the lemon flavor that we're going to launch with as well. We'll have a passion fruit, and we'll also have a Paloma, which surprisingly not too many know Paloma in the market, which is very much a pink grapefruit based cocktail, of course, as well. Now, the images you see here are in bottles. We have actually decided as a company to can these over in Mexico. We've partnered with a second distillery in the Highlands using our tequila from the lowlands. So there's 2 different distinct areas. There's the Highlands, which is quite mountainous and where the agave grows and provides a different flavor profile. And then there's the lowlands in Jalisco where, again, the agave grows and creates a different flavor profile once more. So if we talk in the Highlands, we've got a distillery there. We've got a distillery just outside of the lowlands, so 2 distinct areas. But the distillery that we partnered in the Highlands has got a canning facility, and the unit economics of canning over in Mexico, also being able to call it 100%, meaning it's canned and produced in Mexico, was very appealing. But we've also been able to significantly reduce our cost of goods sold by at least 50 to 60% by doing that, of course, as well. Plus the appeal of being a little bit more environmentally conscious canning as well, and it's a little bit more sessionable. So we're excited to have those same flavour profiles away from glass and into cans now, which is really cool. Doing another comparison, many people might know the range of sparkling margaritas that are out there at the moment. Jose Cuervo, Olmeca, and Espolòn are probably the three big brands that most people know. Again, we're benchmarked probably very similarly to them from a price point perspective, but we really feel our product range in terms of flavours is going to be the differentiating factor here. So we've got that lime, passion fruit, watermelon, lemon keeler, which is basically from a flavour profile going to be a limoncello margarita, and Paloma. And lemon was one of the highest performing categories across everything in Dan Murphy's last year as well. That's why I mentioned that the limoncello certainly saw its time in the sun again, excuse the pun. So we want to capitalise on that this summer because we think it's going to grow even more, and we're going to sort of bring out that range, of course, as well. And the Paloma is something that's going to be very interesting. Certainly a watch this space moment for Florcita because we've got some really big plans there. To give you an indication, I spoke previously on our on-premise strategy, go-to-market-wise, working with the pubs, bars, restaurants. We really want to have a signature serve that highlights the Paloma because we really feel that it's going to be the next big cocktail based on what we've seen in the US and Europe. And I think with what we'll do with that in the next 6 to 12 months is going to be pretty exciting. So again, watch this space, of course, as well. So our cans will be 330ml. They'll be sort of what's called a sleek can, so it's a little bit of a longer one, not like the traditional Coke cans that you get, and very sessionable wherever you have it, of course, as well. That brings me to the conclusion of the actual presentation itself. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to sort of open it up to questions, if that's okay, Mel.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Pat. That was an excellent and comprehensive overview of Florcita. Lots of detail in there. We're open for questions now. Anybody who's on the webinar would like to ask any questions of Pat, now's your chance. If you're interested in investing in this fabulous business and product. Just wanted to also flag that our webinars are not taken as financial advice, but instead just for information purposes. Pat, yes. Do you have an exit plan?
Yes. Interestingly, it's one of those key questions that you do get asked from an investment standpoint. What's the exit strategy? What we would love to do is really partner with a key strategic partner in the beverage space, ideally one of the big beverage brands. So we would like to firstly or invite them to take a significant portion of our equity, where it would sort of be almost a 51-49 split. And what we've seen in successful case studies, I think the likes of Four Pillars is quite a great one, where CUB sort of partnered with them and then they exploded. We want to do something similar, and that would be the investment exit strategy for investors through Birchal, of course, as well as that we would have a strategic partner come on board and then purchase those additional shares from the amount of shareholders that we would have, with the end goal obviously being bought out by one of those big companies. And that's very, very traditionally what happens with brands such as ourselves across many different categories, of course, as well as the big conglomerates or the big beverage brands buy out these smaller brands, if you will, in order to sort of reduce competition and create a little bit more ownership. But I guess I am really, really hopeful that we will have a successful entry internationally, of course, as well, because tequila is a global spirit, and that's the exciting part here. We're Australian owned and we're very proud of that. We're 100% blue agave, so we're also proud of the fact that it's taken us 2 years to get signed off. So it's not an easy entry point for competitors to do. And what we do find is that the shortcuts are taken. So people might bring in bulk agave spirit, for example, and then bottle it as tequila. And because it's like champagne, you can't sort of call it champagne unless it's made in that location. Like tequila, it can only be called tequila if you've been signed off. So the fact we've gone through that is very appealing. And I think the fact that we can now leverage our central supply chain point in Mexico and go to the likes of the UK, go to Southeast Asia, and then go a couple of hours up the road and we're in the US in a couple of years' time is super exciting. And again, I can't speak too highly about them because no one else has tried them, of course, but our RTDs will be the cornerstone of our brand. The flavor profiles are, I think, next level, and I haven't tasted anything both in the US, Europe, and Australia like them. So I'm very confident in terms of what we've got as a mix, as a product mix. But to answer your question, exit strategy-wise, we would love a big company to come on board and then help us basically surge the market.
Pat, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, there's loads of tequila brands out there. It's a bit of a big market. Celebrity endorsed tequila brands, like it's just crazy. I think I saw there was about 12 celebrity endorsed tequila brands just on the current market.
Yeah, of course.
From anybody from Kendall Jenner to Justin Timberlake to The Rock.
Yeah.
That's tough competition. And then the other thing is too, of course, you've got your big George Clooney, and obviously that was such a massive buyout by Diageo, which is, obviously these things happen. So how obviously you have a product that's differentiated. Can you tell us a bit more about that? How you plan to cut through from?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fair question. I think firstly, the multiples on tequila, I guess, are significant in the sense that it's quite lucrative from a buyout perspective, as seen with Casamigos and the heavy price tag. For us, we really feel our differentiating factor is the fact that we're accessible, we're Aussie-owned, but we're also the quality of our tequila is different to what's on the market at the moment, which is very, very floral, as I mentioned. It's won those international awards, and the likes of those brands that you did mention, although they are quite popular, many of which didn't win the same category or level of award that we did. So from a quality perspective, we feel we've got that mix. I also feel our branding is very much different to what's on the market. It's very accessible, and it's very, I guess, it steers away from the traditional norms of what tequila is considered to be, and we've done that deliberately to really make it appealing for a mass market, of course, as well. I think our artwork on our RTDs is pretty cool, and I think that has a wide appeal compared to, and I think celebrity endorsed products, I think the general consensus is people are a little bit over them, of course, as well. Every second day, another celebrity comes out with a product, of course, as well. And without quoting The Rock, we're the people's tequila, if you will. I'm not in it for the celebrity status or anything. I really just have found a product that I want to bring to the market, and I feel that's a great opportunity. And again, as long as you are having a really great time, and I guess Florcita has been built upon not necessarily living in the past, but enjoying the past, enjoying the present, enjoying the future, of course, as well. And as a brand, we feel that, again, I haven't seen anything in Mexico or the US or Europe that looks and feels like our brand, of course. And that's sort of a really cool competitive edge that we've got. And no doubt when we get there and we start to get traction, of course, copycats will come into play, and that's completely fine, of course. But we really feel that the mix that we've got from a quality standpoint, from a branding standpoint, and the fact that we're Aussie-owned, we're a David versus Goliath in this situation, but people love the underdog, and we're the underdog in this situation, and we feel that we can make some really, really great sort of cut through into the Australian market.
Talk to us about the brand. Where did Florcita come from?
Yeah, I think Florcita means little flower in Spanish, and as a brand, I was trying to find a name that resonated with margarita, and so margarita means flower, or margarita means daisy, should I say, in Spanish. So I was like daisy, flower, little flower. I guess the analogy that we've been using is like from little flowers, big things grow, and even in harsh sort of climates like the desert, there's always that little glimmer of hope, that little flower, and it also aligns well with our flavour profile being very floral, of course. So we're very much the flower tequila. If you do see us out in the market, you sort of recognise us from our unique branding. But Florcita sort of stemmed from I guess a little bit of A, B, and C, if you will. Commonly, it's spelt with an E, so Florcita. I dropped the E just for sort of cleanness. Of course, it can still be accepted as it is on the screen. But we're very proud of sort of how well it sort of resonated with everything that we've done. So we're really trying to remain consistent as a brand from that perspective as well.
It sounds good. It's got a nice ring to it. And I like the idea of doing Florcita Friday. That works.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you think of Florcita Friday as a brand, we're looking at those mid-energy sort of experiences. It's not going to be in the clubs and sort of high intensity, high energy areas. It's sort of that chill out moment, that sunset on a Friday afternoon, wherever you may be, rooftop bar, wherever's going to be happy for you. That's where we want to sort of be. But yeah, Florcita Friday, I think it's a perfect way to unwind after a big week.
Yeah, great. There's a question here about your brand ambassadors. How and why did you choose the brand ambassadors you've chosen in New South Wales and Victoria already?
Yeah, of course. We partnered with a company called Brightside Recruiting, who got a wide variety of talent available to sort of help with these positions. So we've picked industry-led brand ambassadors. The reason we want brand ambassadors, we want people, as I mentioned before, sort of really, really living and breathing Florcita in the flesh. We've picked New South Wales and Victoria as the two states to focus on as a start, really, because of the market share, of course, and the wide appeal. And I think we really need to capture both Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane, surprisingly. So that's why Brisbane's on the horizon. They're doing massive things from a liquor and distribution perspective. We really felt we need to capture those markets firstly before then focusing on other areas across Australia. Our brand ambassadors have a wealth of experience. One's previous area manager for Fella, and then the other is works in Mucho Hospitality Group, which own quite a lot of mezcal and tequila brands, including Cantina OK, if you know that, in Sydney. So wealth of experience. They come in with the drive, the passion, and they're lovely people, of course, as well. So for me, I guess as a leader, I really wanted to focus on people over position. But once I started to interview for the brand ambassador, I realised that this person would be a really great alignment, both in Melbourne and Sydney, respectively, of course, for what we want to do as a brand. So that was the reason we picked those brand ambassadors, and that's the reason we picked them in those specific states.
And you've also appointed some BDMs, did you say, as well?
Yeah, got some BDMs lined up for Queensland. We've got one potentially lined up for SA Victoria, and then I'll look after New South Wales until probably the end of the year, and then sort of we'll pass that responsibility on to another. So we want to find a nice balance between having the right amount of staff from a payroll perspective, because operationally payroll generally is 50% of your overall cost. So we want to make sure that we've got a really good balance between having people to sell and to promote the brand without then cutting ourselves too short and spending too much on payroll too quickly and falling flat. So yeah, it's a strategic approach. By the end of the year, we hope to expand the team to 6 to 10 people. So we're currently at about 4 to 5. So hopefully we can get some good traction in the first couple of months and allow us to hit the ground running when we hit the summer, because that's when our RTDs will really come into their own.
Yeah, terrific. Can you elaborate a little bit more about your off-premise strategy? You're obviously starting in New South Wales with
Dan absolutely.
And then...
So again, we've partnered with 12 stores in Dan Murphy's, 6 or 7 in New South Wales broadly, and then another 6. So I've got my numbers wrong. Sorry, 6 in Sydney, and then 6 broadly in Greater New South Wales, mainly around the Byron Bay, sort of Ballina area, of course, as well. So we've partnered with them on a local partnership, firstly, and I'm quite comfortable to do that. If we were to get national ranging right at this very moment without any real traction, it's obviously heavily impactful in terms of your cash flow. So we're happy to chip away and build that relationship, and we hope to meet the units per store per week quite comfortably with that on-premise strategy that we've got. We're really encouraging bars, pubs, restaurants around those select stores to try our product and then have it available locally at their Dan Murphy's is going to be a pretty cool balance to have. And then we'll look to expand that into New South Wales. And then what's really going to help Florcita is those international accolades that we've got from an international wine and spirits competition. Not many current brands in the Dan Murphy's agave mix have those, of course, as well. And again, they are very prestigious. So we've already been in sort of early talks with the national range manager, of course, as well. So they've already sampled our products, and it's with big brands like Dan Murphy's, with Coles Liquor. They've got specific times that they open up their ranging review. So we have to wait, of course, patiently for that next opportunity, which is, I believe, end of the year, if not early next year. But for the most part, we're happy to chip away at the sort of locations that we've got and align that with our on-premise strategy without burning too much cash flow, really, in terms of trying to facilitate big orders too quickly. So I guess overall we want to grow strategically, we want to grow profitably, but we don't want to grow too fast. We want to do it in a way that's methodical. And I think doing a local ranging firstly, building the awareness, then extending that to a state ranging and then national ranging by the end of the year is hopefully are going to be a successful strategy for us.
You mentioned that you are looking at also an international expansion. What sort of time frame are you looking at?
We would like to be operational in time for UK summer, and probably we're looking mid 2026. And as I mentioned, when it's an international expansion, it's not necessarily going to be a shotgun approach where we try and get into 1,000 stores in the UK and 1,000 across Southeast Asia. It's just identifying locations in those key areas that people travel to and from, of course, as well, getting the brand out there a little bit more. So that's why London for us makes sense. I've got a partner over in the UK who's similar to myself, ex-Aldi director, so he potentially could come on board and run the UK business, of course. But our main priority and main focus is the Australian market for the next, at least, I would say 2 to 4 years. But we would just want to chip away at some international locations just to sort of see how the market reacts to our products. And in the end, we don't want to sort of stretch ourselves too thin, but we just want to do it strategically.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the aged products? I mean, they're obviously quite capital intensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so obviously you're going to look at, good cash flows from RTD products, etc., and the Blanco. Can you tell us about your strategy around those aged products?
Yeah, absolutely. So we will look to, all going well, as I mentioned, with the capital raise through Birchal, purchase and procure French oak cognac barrels from next month, fill them and begin to age that process. So we are also exploring a revenue sharing or investment strategy with our tequila barrels, similar to Whiskey and Wealth, if you're familiar with that platform, where investors can buy a barrel for a period of time at sort of the zero aged point, and then the barrels that are purchased from the investors are repurchased back by the business who have provided them at a premium. Generally, it's about 12 to 15%, in which case in 3 years' time. So it's quite a stable and strategic investment strategy for those investors, but also allows the company good cash flow up front, and then they're able to recoup that money back from the selling of the aged products, of course, as well. So it's certainly going to be cash intensive to buy barrels to where we need to get to in a couple of years' time, and you sort of need to stagger the aging of the products over specific measures at each point in time. So you've constantly got a good supply chain, of course, as well. But we will look to sort of procure around 30 barrels and to sort of just start to chip away at what we do in the age aspect, of course, as well. And when I say we're exploring that investment strategy model, haven't necessarily committed to it just yet, but we're certainly looking at innovative and strategic ways to allow our aged products onto the market, of course, as well. The reason we haven't launched with aged products to begin with is because the education of tequila in general needs a lot of work. And as a brand, we're already seeing that from the feedback that we're getting, is that not many people know that Blanco can be as good as it can be, let alone aged spirit in general. So similar to international expansion, we will chip away at our age variants, of course, but I'm really excited in terms of the mix we've got with those cognac barrels aligned with our Blanco flavours. But I think it's an exciting time to sort of explore that as well, because what we're seeing in those growth rates for tequila in general are also resonating with those age variants as sort of more awareness comes with the Blanco, more awareness comes with those age stock as well, which is a pretty cool thing to be a part of. So, yeah, certainly got some big plans there, but like everything, we'll just make sure we do it measured.
Are you the only one in the market with a lemon-based tequila RTD?
Yes, we will be, and that's why I'm excited. So that will launch, all going well, in October. Now, we launched, and for full transparency, we did a small capital raise, which was probably 2/3 family and friends, 1/3 investors in December. It was a small amount that allowed us to, spend a lot on production and working capital, which we've done so, of course, as well. We had an initial time frame to launch our RTDs and Blanco in March, but the governing body in Mexico just had a little bit more of a backlog, so our certification just took that much longer. So instead of just twiddling our thumbs, we actually doubled down with new flavour profiles, reinvigorated our go-to-market strategy to sort of gear ourselves up for success. Back off the feedback that we've had from Dan Murphy is that lemon is doing massive things across a wide variety of RTD flavours. The lemon Keela is currently trademarked, of course, and I've been given the all clear to call it lemon Keela because Mexico is very particular as to how it can be used with the term tequila, of course. But yeah, it's very much capitalising off those lemon trends and more of a sort of a limoncello flavour, as I mentioned, rather than sort of your hard solo. I think it's going to be pretty cool, and we're excited to sort of have really unique and different flavours available to the market, of course, as well. But I believe so. I haven't seen anything else lemon-based and tequila, which is going to be pretty exciting.
It is going to be exciting. So exactly when can the consumers get their hands on? Did you say August, September?
Yeah, so we have a plan of August. So we're currently doing pre-orders at the moment, which I mentioned. They'll fulfill as we bring in air freighted stock in August. So if you did want to pre-order, you're able to do so via the website. But we will have stock landing in August at this stage. Obviously, if there's delays on the water, etc., I can't control those, but we're looking at an August timeframe, which is pretty exciting. In the end, if it gets to the point where we need to bring in another pallet by air freight, I'll do so just so we can start to get the product out there and build on the momentum that we're building, of course. Our RTDs will be finalised in mid-August and landing probably end of September, early October. What I'd love to do is try and align supply chains so that we're filling a full freight container with our RTDs, with our Blanco, and sort of bring it across all at once rather than spending money per shipping container. It just sort of starts to get a little bit costly and chip away at your unit cost. So we'll try and align that, but our intention is that we're leading into sort of October where we'll have the RTDs, we'll have the Blanco, we'll have everything lined up, and we'll enter what I'm calling RTD season, which is probably from that point onwards as we head into an Australian summer, which hopefully is a lot better than the Sydney weather at the moment.
So what about supply chain? Have you got a supply chain strategy for if you just go absolute gangbusters?
Yeah, absolutely. We've leveraged a second distillery, as I mentioned, of course, as well. So if there is a tequila shortage for whatever reason, we have multiple sources that we can source that from with a very, very similar, if not the same profile. So consistency of quality won't differ, of course, as well. But it's a difficult game to play in terms of how much to order without tying up too much capital, but also making sure that you've got enough stock to last the distance, of course. So that's where we're really hoping the Birchal raise will allow us to fuel those big production orders, get them so we've got 3 to 6 months of inventory at any one time, and really help us to sort of navigate through those supply chain uncertainties that you can get. Because if we do get popularly right, we need to make sure that we've got stock on hand, because the duration of getting stock from Mexico, bottled, canned, whatever it may be, you're looking at 2 to 3 months. So we can't afford to do that. We'll also try and engage AI as best we can, of course, as well, from a stats perspective, just to try and enter the numbers and create a little bit of a learning model so that we can sort of try and navigate the supply chain challenges that, like us, many other businesses face, of course, as well. So it's certainly not an easy challenge, but we feel that we've got some good contingencies in place to handle any scenario.
Terrific. And with the international expansion, are you just looking at Asia Pacific first before?
No, I think the easiest entry for us will be some key stores and locations in London, based on the connections we've already got over there, plus the awards that we've won. We'll start to look at Southeast Asia, I think, next year. But again, we're not going to rush into it to anything, of course. The likes of Singapore makes sense. I mean, the opportunities become endless when you start thinking about the locations. And I like to draw upon 4 pillars because they're a great case study as well. If you look at sort of the duty-free option they've got in Changi Airport, I think they're the 3rd biggest brand in the world for duty-free sales, for example. So strategic entry points like that really could work nicely for us, rather than just thinking that we're just going to target a few key bars, restaurants, pubs, whatever it may be in those locations. So we're just trying to think outside the box, but also aligning with the brand in terms of holiday destination, in terms of nostalgia. We want to catch people when they're traveling, when they're relaxed, when they're having a good time. So airport, as an example, could be a really good entry into some places in Southeast Asia.
Amazing. That sounds terrific. Well, I think we might wrap it up there, Pat, but that's been a fantastic presentation. Thank you for all that information. And again, if you're interested in investing in Florcita Tequila, please go to birchal.com/Florcita Tequila and put your expression of interest in, so that you can make the most of the late payment terms when it comes to investment day next week on Tuesday, midday, the 8th of July.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate your time and your effort in terms of joining today, or if you're watching it after the call today. Again, thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you do have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking on this platform but just want to reach out specifically, please give us an email at hello@florcita.com.au and I'll be able to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But once again, thank you and really appreciate your support.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.